Good morning, everyone, guys. World War III unfolding as the United States strikes more Iran-backed targets. Guys, when I said the United States would be involved in a conflict in the Middle East, I kind of thought this would happen after the US election. I don't think it would happen meanwhile or, before the United States election. So absolutely wild news coming out of the Middle East, guys. This was from Wednesday when apparently two stealth, I don't know how many actually, but apparently stealth bombers, the B-2 stealth bombers, so the big ones, attack targets in Yemen. Now, guys, this is huge news. I mean, they probably flew from the United Kingdom, to be fair. I can't think of another regional base. Anyway, it doesn't matter where they flew from. But, you see now all this stuff I've been talking about this diversions whereby, as per my last video, Britain will lead what's left of NATO. And again, I don't think NATO is going to be a thing, but we don't know what the new thing is yet. So we'll just say NATO. But Britain will lead what's left of NATO in Europe against the Russians. And the United States will be in a conflict with the Israelis in the Middle East. And all this is leading towards a war with China. And all this is leading towards a big resource grab in Antarctica. Guys, nobody's putting these together. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. In fact, guys, I've not even got my banner on. How unprofessional of me not to have my banner on. There, guys, I feel like I'm fully clothed now. But yeah, so let's just get into it, guys. Let's talk about when we talk about this region, this like the Middle East, I don't think to try and conceptualize this, especially if you live in Europe where people are mostly aligned and people are mostly, European, although they have differences, the culture is pretty much the same. You can move around and you're fine and you won't get, there will be no problems. Like if you live in North America as well, you can travel around the States in North America and everything's fine. You can go to Canada, everything's fine. But the Middle East, it's complicated to say the least. So if you think about Iran as the mastermind, the one with all the oil, the one with the I think that I'm going to say it's got the biggest country. I think Saudi Arabia might be slightly bigger. Yeah, I think Saudi Arabia is slightly bigger, but not much. But Iran's got oil. They've got a lot of money. They've got a lot of influence in that region. They understand what's coming. They've got half of Iran's military budget is split to conventional and non-conventional. So, guys, this non-conventional is nobody talks about this non-conventional. Everybody's focused on the conventional warfare. The next wars are not going to be fought conventionally. These are going to be non-conventional wars. Remember, in the United Kingdom, we're under the threat of drone attack. We're under the threat of sabotage. So is Europe. So is a lot of the United States. Although you've got to look at what is available in that location. Whereas Europe, there will be a lot of munitions smuggled in from the war in Ukraine. That will be taken over the border by big drones. Big quadcopters will go, drop a load of munitions off on the Polish side. Polish smuggling gangs will get this. They will then disseminate that through their smuggling routes. Getting that into the United Kingdom, although it's harder, it's not impossible. So in the United Kingdom, I think we have a greater risk of sabotage rather than these attacks with munitions. But guys, let's not beat about the bush. The MI5 boss came out and he said that they had thwarted acts of mass murder that would involve firearms and explosives. So this is all out there in the open. Nothing's hidden anymore. But let's just think about the Middle East for a moment. So you've got Iran, and they would be allied with, I'd say the Iranians have influence in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Qatar for some Qatar's one of those like ambiguous ones. So I'd say a little bit of influence in Qatar. They have influence in Yemen, obviously, with the Houthis. They've got influence in the Gaza Strip with the Palestinians. They've got influence in Lebanon, obviously, with Hezbollah. So that whole region, it's got a heavily influenced area by the Iranians. Now, let me go to the share screen and let you and tell you. We'll go from this article, guys, because the fact that the United States are using these these stealth bombers well, I think it's it's certainly unprecedented in that region. US U-2 bombers strike Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen. So this was a strike that went in I'll just read it here, guys. Rather than me articulate and try and half read, half articulate, I'll read it off this and then I'll tell you what it means and what's the next stages going forwards. The US carried out a round of strikes in Yemen against the Iran-backed Houthis on Wednesday, so like 2 nights ago. Wednesday evening, according to Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, targeting 5 underground weapons storage facilities using B-2 stealth bombers. Now, you get to a certain level underground and nothing's going to touch you. It's really not. So I don't know what these facilities were that they attacked. I don't know what munitions they used, but from my understanding of munitions, and again, my understanding is, well, it's 10 years old, but I'm still pretty much convinced that physics still works the same. And if you go far enough underground, you can't be touched. So that's why everyone's going underground now, guys. And if you go deep enough underground, like the Iranians, I'm going to assume have, the Air Force, the air superiority, it becomes obsolete. The facility housed advanced conventional weapons, I don't know what that means, used to target military and civilian vessels in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. 3 U.S. defense officials told CNN following the attack. This attack was a unique demonstration of the United States' ability to target facilities that, they want to keep out of reach. So, guys, what does this mean then? So, let's keep it simple and let's not get too far into it. The United States have now entered this conflict in the Middle East. They're not beating about the bush. They're striking Iranian-backed militias. They're striking Iranian-backed targets. A lot of these munitions, these arms will have come in from Iran. I think it was like a couple of months ago that one of the a Navy SEAL it was very difficult to understand what had happened, but it was something like one of the Navy SEALs had been in a contact on a civilian shipping vessel that was taking missiles somewhere, and that was so it was all. This is happening right now. I would suggest and I would speculate that there is a secret war already being fought, whereby US Navy SEALs, British Special Forces, whatever, they're taking out these ships, they're taking out these missiles, making it look like sabotage. This has been going on. This is as old as time, the British I think Britain pioneered this sort of stuff in the conflict in Northern Ireland in like the 60s, 70s, 80s, so this happens, it's part of grey warfare. Of course, I talk about the Iranians having a huge grey warfare capacity, but of course, the West has a huge grey warfare capacity as well. We're conducting grey warfare on the Iranian-backed militias. This is happening. So I think what's key, though, is the blatancy of this attack, the blatancy of the use of the B-2 stealth bombers, the blatancy of this. We are the United States. We are involved in this conflict, guys. I said the US would be dragged into a conflict in the Middle East. They're kind of already in it. And as soon as Trump gets elected, guys, like who thinks that Trump is not going to be elected now? Who thinks it's 50-50 still? Does anyone think it's 50-50 still? President Zelensky, when he went up and he was having his meeting in, I think it was Brussels, like yesterday or a couple of days before. I may be slightly wrong on those dates, but he got up and rather than him saying that he'd spoke with Joe Biden, the president of the United States, or rather than him saying he'd spoke with senior officials in the US military, what he said was he had spoken to Donald Trump. Guys, this is wild because Donald Trump is not even the US president. He is literally a presidential candidate. So, kind of telling who's going to be the next president. Anyway, so let's keep the Ukraine thing separate. So like I've been saying for months and months and months, probably over a year now, there's going to be this diversions where the United States going to be in the Middle East. They're going to have a ground invasion that's going to lead to a war with Iran, and the United Kingdom is going to lead NATO, what's left of NATO, in Eastern Europe against the Russians. Guys, we're just seeing all this stuff play out in front of us. You know, what does this mean? Well, it means that this was already pre-planned. I could see this coming, guys, a year ago. How could I see this coming? You've got to look at what's growing in the weeds. You've got to look at where people are spending their money. You've got to look at where people are putting their troops. Yes, okay, you can look at, you can go and listen to some psychic preacher or somebody who's got some sort of clairvoyancy. And that all may well be true, guys. I'm certainly not saying it's not true, because there's some absolutely wild stuff happening in the world at the moment. But anyway, guys, just to keep you informed what's happening, the United States, they're now striking, Iranian-backed targets in the Middle East. This is only going to escalate further and further. The Israelis, their war in Gaza, their war in Lebanon, that's going further and further. And all these next steps, all these escalations get another escalation, then somebody escalates even further. Where does it stop? Literally, if we keep escalating, where does it stop? It stops in a world war, World War III of an industrial scale. Then until we've had a mass population decrease, everybody's thinking just make it stop. And then somebody has to emerge a winner. Guys, if China can manage not to get drawn into any conflicts, China will emerge the winner. China will have their population, China will have their GDP, China will have their infrastructure, China will have their, will have their population. Guys, absolutely wild times ahead. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share my stuff. Really appreciate it when you guys do that. I'm on this many platforms now. I think three. No, we've actually got a fourth one. We've got what's it called? I can't even remember. It's not Telegram. I don't know. It's one where you can stream things, and it's like I don't know. I'll try and put it in. I'll put a link in the description, guys. I'll put links in the description. I'll let you guys go. Your time's important, guys. I'm going to back to grid, and I'll get you guys another video later.